Hello, hello, this is Leo, and welcome to a new tutorial by Blau Films.
Hello, hello. I am Erick Alcaraz. I am the director of photography in Blau Films.
We're going to be exploring the different styles of lighting in several art movements and from different famous painters. And today we will be starting with looking at the Caravaggio lighting. We have set up this scene over here. We've got some house lights turned on. Everything is pretty basic and simple. We have these skulls from Bill Ellis. We have some cloth from Charlotte. Yeah, we're just gonna turn off these lights right now, and then hopefully Eric can guide me through how to get the Caravaggio look.
Brilliant. Let's get on with it.
We will be working with the interactive renderer over here. So right now I have the house lights turned off, and the only thing I have turned on is a sky. Should I keep that or should I get rid of that as well?
Let's keep that right now, just for reference, just to see what are we doing. I would like you to pull up one of the references you have here on the right.
Yep.
Just to be able to know where to start and what are we doing.
So there is this painting over here. I enjoyed this painting simply because of how strong the contrast is and how sharp the light direction is.
Yes. And if you see from all the references you have, the work in Caravaggio, his work with light is quite consistent. It appears to only be one source of light, but as we kept on analyzing these paintings, we realized that there are sometimes a little bit more than one light, yeah? Or at least we need to have one more light to be able to recreate this. So one of the things that I can see right now is that he usually uses almost a top light. At least is one light on the left that is quite high.
Yep.
Almost 3/4. So I would suggest to start with one of those lights in Cinema 4D.
Is that going to be like a sunlight, or are you thinking of having like an actual spherical light source or something?
I would suggest if you have in your library a 2K, I think that'll be a good start.
When it comes to having something like a 2K, I would suggest creating a circular area light and then just bumping up the intensity. I'm moving this light over here. What kind of angle are you expecting?
Let's start with something high, if possible. I don't know how you calculate this in Cinema 4D.
Can you see the green axis that you're having here?
Yeah.
That's basically the one that's showing you the light direction.
Okay, so if possible, let's make it a little bit lower.
The position or the angle?
The position.
About here?
Yeah, let's start with that.
Nice. As you can see in the viewport, it's already giving some light to the flowers over there. Right now, it's basically just shining onto the Spanish helmet.
Yeah.
So I could move it more towards this area.
Okay, that's good.
Maybe it's nice to quickly have a look at our camera settings before we start playing with the light.
Yeah, that's something we forgot to mention. So right now we are on 50 millimeters. Yeah, on a sensor size, it's 35 millimeters. And our aperture, it's right now 16, f16.
Now, is there anything you would like to change on that?
Let's go for an 8.
Let's go for an 8. And shutter speed?
Go for a 50.
Now, except for that, I've just given it some basic settings. I'm turning on the sharpening. I have turned on the depth of field with a bladed aperture of 6 blades. And I have a advanced bokeh FX put to a 1, 0.5 and negative 0.5 anisotropy, which is kind of giving you like that vertical bokeh. But because we're on a f-stop of 8, almost nothing will be out of focus.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's something important when it comes to the recreation of the paintings or any sort of still life. Everything is in focus. So that's why we're trying to keep a close aperture as much as we can.
Absolutely.
Of course, if you're having a close aperture, that means that you need to bring more light. So that's why I always like to start with a bright light and then start dimming it down if necessary.
It's true, because our light right now is already at an intensity of 250.
Nice. It's a good start.
So tell me, mate, what do you want to do with the light? Any color, any...
I think I would like to warm the light a little bit. What's the temperature in the light right now?
Right now it's a color unit, but I can switch it to temperature, and then you can control the temperature over here.
That'll be great. Yeah, because a lot of the temperature of the light that Caravaggio uses is more of a tungsten. light kind of a feel. He rarely used cold lights on its paintings.
Yep.
So I think if we can just go down to a tungsten temperature, something like 3200.
3200. Yeah, that's already matching the colors pretty nicely.
It's interesting to see how the color temperature will affect the actual tones and hue of the colors itself.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so tell me, what do you think now?
I think that the ambient light, we should change as well the temperature.
Okay.
Something it's good to analyze as well is that Caravaggio uses quite deep darks, but you still see some information in there, right? And that's why it's always useful to have a little bit of ambient light, just to be able to see the blacks, and then we can dim down the intensity until we get into the contrast ratio we're looking for.
Now, when it comes to the ambient light, I believe you would be talking about the HDRI that we have right here.
Yes.
And let me just show you an actual image of what it looks like. So this is the HDRI that I'm using.
Okay.
So as you can see, the bottom section where it's in shadow, it's already a pretty cool shadow tone.
Yeah.
And that's what's giving us this cooler tone on our image over here. Now what I could do is I could just basically put a grading node on top of this HDRI and make it warmer.
Yeah, just a tiny bit warmer. At the end of the day, we want to have as well as much separation as we can. Yep. But we still want to have this warm look. Something we can do as well is to put another light. Instead of having the HDR, we turn the HDR off. Mm-hmm. And then we create another top light. How about that?
Want to go for that?
Yeah, probably. Given that we were trying to recreate everything with lights here as much as possible.
So have a look at what happens when I turn off the HDR.
Nice.
Everything goes very dark because we're not getting any bounce light.
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah, let's try using a top light.
Would that be a rounded light, a softbox? What are you looking for?
I would say a softbox would do.
How big are you thinking?
Not too big. Maybe a softbox around 1 meter, probably.
Cool. 1 by 1.
Yeah.
I'm rotating it downwards. And have a look at this bottom corner over here. And you can tell me how high you want it to be.
Get it higher, please.
Now, for the viewers, I've mentioned this a few times in some of the tutorials, but remember, the bigger the light source, the softer the shadows. The smaller the light source, the harsher the shadows.
We're complementing each other, because I don't know anything about 4D, Cinema 4D.
So as you can see already in the result, it's giving a pretty nice result.
It is indeed. Now, what I would like to do is to reduce the intensity of that top light.
Yep. Now, do you want to play with the color as well?
Yes, if we can match the color.
3200, right?
Yes.
And a intensity of, let's say, do you want to go half?
Let's go half. Let's see how that looks.
So in case you guys don't know, yesterday when I set up most of this scene, I did a quick tryout to see if I knew how to do Caravaggio lighting, and I drastically failed. And let me pull up some examples on the screen. And now in just 2 lights, we're already getting closer to the result we're after.
I think that's looking quite good.
Yeah, pretty good, right?
Something that I'm missing as well is to have the light for the background. Mm-hmm. Because there are some textures in there that are worth exploring, and I think it would add a lot of color contrast because the drapes have a very nice deep red, quite close to the color of the reference. So I think it's important now to add a little bit of light there.
Let me quickly rename this light. So the first one, how would we call that one? That's our 2K Keylight?
Yes, that's our Keylight. Then we have a top light, and the third one would be the background light.
Now, how are we going to do this background light?
I would say let's bring another light, just like the Keylight you have. Okay. But this one, let's make it a 1K. Maybe you can make it a 13 centimeters, probably.
Where do you want to position this?
Let's take it more to the left.
To the
Camera left. Yes, exactly. And almost if you want to go, as if you wanted to go around the table.
Do you want to go round from the bottom side or round from the top side?
From the top side.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Otherwise, you would be getting some light interference with the skull on the foreground.
Exactly. exactly. So what we want is to isolate the light, so there would be like literally no light spilling to the table.
Yep. And do you want to shine that right at the background?
Yes, please.
Cool. Now this light is pretty weak. I'm not seeing too much of a impact on the background.
Okay, then let's make it stronger. Then let's match the same intensity as the 2K.
Yeah, we're getting some more out of it now.
But it's still too weak?
Well, I don't know. Have a look here at the...
Yeah, I think we're gonna need a little bit more.
So, do you want to just have a stronger light? We could double this to 500.
Yep,
Have
let's
a 4K.
make it. Yep, let's make it harder, please.
So there is this directionality function over here. And it's basically... think of it as like the flags around your light. So you could like direction your light to be more of a spotlight than a flood light. Is that what you call it?
Yeah. Right now, you're saying it's flooded?
Right now it's flooded.
Okay, let's make it spot. Let's start with that. I mean, I don't know how the percentages work in Cinema 4D, but let's start with a 50% spot.
Yep. Look at that.
There you go. Now it makes sense. I was like, wow, we're adding too much intensity and nothing seems to be affecting the background.
Yeah, so now you're 50% spotting the light.
Okay, brilliant. Now something I would like to do is to create this line with the light, to make it really, really thin, as if it was coming through a window hole.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So just put like 2 flags in front of it?
Yeah, well, in reality, what you would do would be to have the cutters of the Fresnel.
Yep.
Get the cutters, the top one and the bottom one, and just really, really close them.
The top one and the bottom one. So you have a horizontal line.
Exactly.
So in Cinema 4D, what you would go for is you would create a plane, just drag it right in front of your background light. What we're going to do here is I'm going to make this editable up here. And I'm going to go to the polygon selection mode. And I'm just really going to select 2 loops in the middle. So hit U and L to make a loop cut. To make a loop selection. Select like 3 or 4 of them. And then we'll hit backspace. And now I am using this material over here, which is just simply a black diffuse material with no reflection or anything. And that's going to work as our flag, or let's say our negative fill in this case. And we're just going to be blocking out as much of that light as we can.
I'm really liking it. It's very weird to work like this, but it's very interesting. I think this kind of exercises will help us a lot to be able to work more, how would I say it, more friendly when it comes to CGI shots on our music videos.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think so too. Like it's often that we work on projects together, but sometimes the communication is one of the most complicated aspects of the whole process.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have basically completely closed it down. As you can see in the preview, we're not actually seeing much of that light showing up anymore. But I feel like we might have to up the directionality to be able to see some kind of a streak.
Yeah. Something you can do is to play around with the height.
Because it might be that we're just so far away from our cloth that whatever is shining through this slit is not actually registering as a thin line anymore. Yeah,
it's already quite flooded, so yeah, I would say let's start with that. Let's bring it as close as you can.
Maybe angle it down slightly more or put it higher.
What's the angle? Can I see like on the arrows where it's supposed?
Yeah, it's this blue arrow that you're seeing over here. And the top of the cloth is this line with this rectangular square.
That's strange. Maybe if you pan right a little bit.
So the cloth on the top left corner, the red and the green cloth, is already getting pretty much of a nice plasticity. And I'm quickly going to do a few minor changes here. So I'm putting the highlight compression to 1.2. And where shall we take the f-stop?
Let's double the f-stop. So if we were on an 8, let's go for a 16.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the image is getting pretty dark, as you can see.
Yeah. So we'll have to double the light.
Double the light. Damn. We are doubling the softbox, and we are doubling the Keylight. Yeah, we're essentially getting the same image now.
Yeah, that is something worth to add to all the cinematographers out there. The more light you bring, the sharper the image will get. So every time you're exposing, try to expose as far on the right as you can, and then in post-production you can bring it down to your actual look. So that will give you no funny noise in the darks, but on the contrary, you're going to have the sharpest and the cleanest darks.
I think that's very interesting. That's really a digital filmmaking tip, right?
It is because exposing on the shoulder, that's where you're getting the best out of the sensor as opposed to exposing on the toes of the curve.
Yep. For those who don't know, the toes of the curve means when the curve starts moving at the bottom section, the bottom left corner, and the shoulder is on the right top where it starts moving back into the S shape. Now I'm quickly going to enable the bloom and glare, putting the bloom to 2, size 25, and a streak count of 4, a color shift of 0.8. And that should be it. Let's see if that does anything. Yeah, it's giving a bit of a bloom, as you can see on the helmet on the left corner.
Yeah.
Now I will take it down a little bit. I'm putting the intensity to 1, and we'll have it in the background while we can work on something else.
So I think we need to work on that background. We need to get that light in place. So I would say let's remove completely the flags. Let's just open the whole thing, and then we can start working right on the angle. A good way to work around that is to make the light quite spotted.
Mm-hmm.
Make it hit on the right place you want it, and then you can start flooding everything out.
I've turned off the flags right now. As you can see, much more light has already entered the scene. 100% spotted.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. That's why it wasn't hitting. So I would say let's try to move it as center as possible. Something that I can see now, it didn't work with the pan because it went down. So I think you need to tilt up the light.
Tilt up the light.
Yeah, just tilt up.
Now it's there.
There you go. There you go. That was the problem. Now try to pan right a little bit more, just so it can be just right in the back of the flowers.
Now it's essentially behind the flowers.
That's brilliant. Okay, now let's start flooding.
So let's take it to like 50% again.
Let's go for an 70%, please.
70%. Oh, look at that.
I think we need, definitely we need more. Let's even go for a 40. Yep, that's just about right. And now you can bring the flags.
Now the flags have pretty much darkened almost everything down.
Yeah, you'll have to spread them apart. And as well, if you can bring them further from the light, that'll be great.
Okay, so I'm quickly adding a Cinema 4D compositing tag, and I'm making it invisible to the camera.
How close are the flags from the background?
About 2 meters, 2 to 3 meters.
Try to bring them closer to the background as much as you can.
Just the flags?
Yes.
Oh, look at that.
There you go. There you go. That was a problem. Yeah, the thing is that if you want to create sharper shadows, you need to be as close as you want to the subject where you want to create the shadows.
Yeah.
The further you are, the bigger the shadow. And that's when you don't get this sharp line we were trying to look for. It's just complicated to see it here in the Cinema 4D because you don't know the actual
distances to anything.
Exactly, but there you go. That's more of a desired look. Something else I would like to add once that we finish the background is to have a side flag, just so we know that there is no light spilling to the table. because we're controlling that with separate lights.
So that would be something that would just be in between the background and the foreground.
Exactly. Just to have a side light, and we block any light.
Cool. So how do you feel about this now?
I really like it. With 3 lights, we are creating interesting shapes, interesting shadows, and that's something I'd like to do a lot on the projects I work on. It's not only about bringing a lot of lights, but it's more how you shape them.
I heard that, what's his name? Janusz Kaminski, the DP who works with Spielberg,
Yeah.
that he likes to bring a whole truck full of lights.
Yes, he does. Well, if you have the budget to have any light on your disposal, yeah, I would do that as well.
Yep. Then just go for it.
Exactly.
Cool. Now what I'm noticing is that this flag, I've brought it pretty close to the background, but it's excluding the
exactly.
Ones on the other side. I can give you a duplicate of the flag and move that one to the front.
Yeah, if you can duplicate those. So now it's looking much better. Nevertheless, there is still a bit of some light that is not quite hitting the left side of the background.
Where the cross is or where the fabric is?
Where the fabric is. So you still have like a little bit of a very smooth shadow there. So I think if you can, let's do that again. Let's get the flags as close as you can to that side to be able to have that. There you go. Yeah, we're trying to create as much separation as we can from the background to the foreground and all the elements in between.
Yep.
So that kind of style and shadow plays, I think they're doing its job. Let's see. Something else I'm missing a little bit, it's a bit of detail on the shadows of the right of the foreground of the objects. There you go. Now I'm missing a little bit of that, but I don't want to bring more lights because that'll be just excessive.
Yep.
So what I would do is to add a bit of a bounce in there.
Okay. We're starting with a bounce. So how are we going to do that? What kind of a bounce are you looking for?
Not a big one. Let's try a 2x2.
2x2?
Yeah.
And is that going to be white, silver, or gold?
Okay, wow, you have the option. Let's try the gold one. Let's put it just right, where the table is drawing the 90 degrees. That's where I would put it. It has to be like just right in the corner of the table.
Ah, okay, somewhere like here.
Yes, somewhere like there.
And what is it that you're trying to do with this?
I'm trying just to give a little bit of feel to the darks on that side.
And we're using a gold material.
Yeah, a gold material. And let's see. If it's too intense on the same direction, we just need to pull it back.
It's actually not very intense.
It is not very intense, right?
It's just giving a little bit of a bounce, but it's probably just the angle, because I feel like if we slightly angle it upwards, we're going to be able to catch some of that softbox light.
Bring it upwards. The idea here is just to have a feel on the right side of the image and not to affect the other, because the intensity on the other side is quite alright.
Yeah. Now it's not giving off too much light, but it is giving us that golden reflection on the right side.
That's good. I like to have like very dim fill light in there, just to add a little bit of something. Yep. But we need to make sure that our contrast ratio is consistent throughout the whole image.
Yes. Now it's funny because when you look at a Caravaggio painting at first glance, it basically just looks like he put the contrast to 100 and called it a day. But then when you really start looking at it, it's actually not that contrasty in the values themselves.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, he has like quite of a big contrast ratio. But if you go, for example, to the reference you have on top, and you get closer to the skull, now something you can see is that there's you can still see in the darkest areas, and there's a bit of a backlight in there.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's even like a bounce, getting back to the dark side of the face, and of course, any kind of backlight will always add more contrast.
Okay, so we increased the intensity of the foreground, and now we have to increase the intensity of the background?
Yes, because we close the aperture.
2500?
Yes, please. Okay, well, that's looking good to me.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Yeah. Now it's the time where I think we have our lights in the right position. I think everything's looking good. It's looking nice. But I think now it's a time to work with subtleties.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And for that, I would really need to see a good preview just to know exactly where am I missing something.
Hello, everybody. We're back. We took a 2-day break from this project, but for you, this is just going to be like a split second. Let's have a look at the most recent version we got up till now, and then we'll discuss how to finish this off. Cool. Eric, word is on you.
Yeah, so I mean, looking at this render, some of the things that we're noticing is that, first of all, we have a lot of background. We reveal too much of the background. That's something we would like to avoid. We want to be a little bit more mysterious with it. So something we'll have to do is to rearrange a little bit the flag positions just to be able to see the textures. On the other hand as well, I would like to flag the Keylight. So we're only able to see not the whole table, but just a little part of it. I think that would give more depth and a bit more mystery to the shot itself.
Yep, nice. So essentially removing this front section where we're seeing the corner of the table.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Besides that, I think the contrast we managed to get is quite well, and we're getting a nice texture out of the objects.
Yep.
Okay, so how about if we start flagging out the key light?
Okay.
So if possible, let's turn off the background light to be able to just focus on that.
Yep, absolutely. All right, there you go. Background light is turned off, and this is what we get.
Brilliant. Okay, so how about if we start putting a flag as close as we can to the table to try to flag the front
Yep.
side of it.
That's actually one thing that I learned in this process, that if you want to flag something, you should put the flag close to the object you want to flag as opposed to putting it close to the light source.
Correct.
I've been doing it wrong all my life.
Well, I think that's one of the good things about making these kind of experiments and exercises. You still can learn a lot.
Yeah,
And with the whole pandemic thing,
absolutely.
you can just do it yourself. You don't need like a crew of 2 or 3 people to do it.
Yeah. Even though I do really miss, going out and shooting with people
No, my. Every day.
every day.
But we're slowly getting there.
Slowly. All right, I've made a big flag. I've put it in position. It's close to the table, but now, as you can see, it's just ginormous. Right now, it's 4 by 4 meters. How big do you want it?
I think the size should be 1 by 1.
1 by 1.
And then just try to get it as lower to the camera.
So, as you can see in the top left corner, you can see that I've angled the flag the same way that the light is angled. Do you want the flag to be straight, or what do you want to do with it?
Yeah, let's get it straight, just kind of the same position we have the other flags.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just put it in position, and let's try to look for the effect. So I think it has to be in front of the 2K that we have there. So I would say that maybe a good way to figure it out the position is to block the light completely, and from there we start to bring the flag down. Now bring it as close to the table as you can. Brilliant. Yeah, so we can get like a very defined shadow.
Yep.
So as close to it as we can, and then you start bringing it down.
Down. Ah, so we start introducing light from the top. Oh, and then we get the shadow at the bottom.
Exactly. That's right.
Okay, I understand.
Uh, let's see a little bit more of the preview.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're getting very close. Okay, yeah, I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
We got there.
Nice.
We got there. Now, something I'm looking at is that this is the fact that just all the background is completely dark. It's giving us more of a Caravaggio look as opposed to what we had before with the background light.
Mm-hmm. Shall I turn on the background light?
Yes, please.
I do think there are some elements in the background that make the shot better, but I do as well agree with what you said in the beginning that we are giving off too much information in the background right now.
So we need to keep on experimenting with the flags. The first thing I would do is to bring the flags lower because I can see the top end of the curtains, and that's something I wouldn't like to have.
Yep. So I'm lowering the flags.
I think you lowered them a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Let's see there. Let's see there. That's looking good. Let's see a bit more of the preview.
Yep.
Those are the first ones, right?
Yeah, those are the first ones. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, well, we're coming a long way from that.
Absolutely.
So, what would you like to do? For me, I think it's all right because it has a little bit of light, so we can see that there is something in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Caravaggio, I think, is even more minimalistic with his backgrounds. Like there are almost no backgrounds in his paintings.
Yeah, here there's definitely nothing.
Completely dark. But I mean, it's a good way to start thinking on how to do that kind of clear obscure lighting. Like, what are the things you need to consider? And even though your set is much bigger than what Caravaggio used to paint, I think it's very important to be conscious that always in this kind of lighting, it has to be from only one side, at least your key. And if you need to push a little bit your blacks, then you give it a little bit of top light.
I feel like that's one of the most impressive things during this process is that once we manage to work a little bit of more effort into placing that key light and giving it a correct color temperature of, what was it, like 3200 Kelvin? And then on
Yes.
top of that, adding that top light to create a bit of a rim, that basically already did the entire job.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I have a question. The drape that is on the right-hand side,
Yep.
does that one has a separate flag?
Yes.
How about if we try to get rid of the top end as well?
Okay.
There you go. Yeah. I think one of the advices as well I can give is to, you have on your mind an idea and just try to do everything, but as well be very observing what are the flags doing and what is the effect that you have on light, because that's gonna guide you through even more interesting path. So yeah, I would say just be very observing when you're moving around your lights and your flags especially.
And like in CG, it's a pretty easy process. We can just pull up these lights and pull up some flags and do it. But actually, for shooting this in live action, it's not that complicated either, right?
No. Actually, it's interesting. As long as you have a couple of systems, a couple of flags, you can get very interesting effects. Something I'm noticing as well is that maybe a little bit of the right side of the table, it's a bit dark, but I think we can fix that by maybe moving the top light a little bit more as well to the right, so we can give a little bit of push on that side because the key is already giving a lot of information to the left side.
Absolutely.
But the right-hand side, it's a little bit dark.
So if I just move the 1x1 meter softbox a little bit further to the right.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
I think we're gonna get more information in there. Yeah, maybe a tiny bit more.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I think we are in a good place. I would say this could be our final frame.
Oh my god.
What I would like to do, is to probably export a preview with a proper render to be able to see it, assess that. But I think we're there.
Nice.
Excellent. It was a pleasure and very fun to work like this is my first cinema 4D recreation on something, but I think it's very interesting, and as well to all of the cinematographers out there to know that they can use these tools and to experiment with these tools prior to a shoot.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't have enough budget to do all the tests and stuff, and you can feel quite pressure to go on set without really trying what you wanted, and this is a very nice way, cheap way to start experimenting prior to your shoots.
Yeah, absolutely. And then after this video, be sure to subscribe to our channel because we will be making some more of these. Eric was talking about Rembrandt. Yeah, I feel like the world of painters is an infinite supply of knowledge for us to experiment with.
Exactly. I'm very excited for the next episode on this series.
Nice, nice. Well, thank you very much, Eric. I'll let you go, and thanks a lot. Laters. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.